So if I were to describe this car, it's Good morning, people of the internet. If you're watching this on another time, good afternoon or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. So we finally have the Kia Stonic, and we're doing an extensive test drive of it thanks to Kia Philippines for organizing this event. Giving credit where it's due, they really made sure they followed every protocol to make sure we're following the guidelines against this pandemic. But at the same time, we're getting the opportunity to extensively test drive the Kia Stonic. So if you've been following the channel or following the Facebook page, we did cover this for quite some time. We had the initial impression with Paulo and Carl, and we also had a talking point with our cars casually. If you want to check either of those videos and you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put the video links on top, the cards. And if you're watching this on Facebook, I'll try to put it on the comment section or in the caption. We're driving all the way to Tagaytay, coming from BGC, to really get a good impression so that I can review it later on what the Kia Stonic is all about.
Many hours later,
The moment everyone has been waiting for, a full review of the all-new Kia Stonic. Now finally seeing it in the metal, it's as good as I imagined it to be. This is one of the best form factor vehicles you can get in its class right now, because as a crossover, it has to balance between being sedan-like and being practical. What I mean by form factor is, it's big enough to carry 5 people plus cargo, but it's small enough that it doesn't take so much room when you're driving around the city. It's high enough to handle really bad roads, but the overall height of the car is low enough, it feels like a sedan. If you ask me between the two, this feels more sedan-like than SUV-like. And in my book, as a guy who loves sedans, I'm really happy with this car. The comfort levels are more sedan-like than SUV, which means for those who are looking for a comfort-oriented crossover, this is it. One thing that really surprised me was the trunk space. One problem with hatchbacks is that when it comes to trunk space, it leaves little to be desired. With the Kia Stonic, and I'll show you later, all my gear is laid flat. And that's saying something, because usually when I store my gear, I have to put it on the upright position for them to fit. With the Kia Stonic, it fits all flat, and I didn't even fold the seats yet. If the outside of the car impressed you, you should wait till you see the inside. Whether you get the entry-level Kia Stonic or this one, the top trim Kia Stonic, they all come with a really nice infotainment system with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which means that when it comes to connectivity, doesn't matter which Stonic you get. You can get the cheapest one or the most expensive one. You will be able to sync your phone through a cable, and you can use the apps on the multimedia display. Aside for the gadgets and gizmos, I really like, at least for this top-of-the-line model, I really like the fit and finish of the interior. Everything's well placed, everything's simple. I love the monochromatic dashboard and instrument cluster. It makes it such a joy to drive on the road because there's nothing bothering you in what you're looking at. We noticed it when we were going around the twisting roads up to Tagaytay, was the slight bucket seats. Like they kept me planted, but they weren't hard enough to make the ride uncomfortable. I'm a 5'10", 5'11" guy, 225 pounds now. And despite that, look at that. I fit in the car perfectly. And this seat's all the way back. I'm telling you right now, if you have a 4-hour trip and you're there at the back, yeah, I know the key's outside, you wouldn't have a problem. So how does the Kia Stonic do in city driving? So like we're now in between heavy traffic and medium traffic. Since we're in a convoy and trying to weave through, a little athleticism on the car is needed. And I have to say, the Kia Stonic holds its ground really well. So with the Kia Stonic, what's nice is, because there's not much overhangs for a crossover, you have a good level of spatial awareness with a car like this. When weaving through traffic, it's like, okay, I know the Kia Stonic extends this much based on the shape and design of the car. So when you're weaving through traffic, it's really easy. The steering's light, so even like when you're from a standstill, when you're trying to maneuver from there, since the steering's light, it's easy to move. The power delivery, personally, I would have liked a more responsive or like a bit more power. So when we started the trip, we started with city driving, and what I noticed was this car is really frugal. When we left the showroom and we were on our way to Tagaytay, I started to notice it's like when going uphill, it felt like it was having a hard time. So first I thought maybe the engine was underpowered, but it turns out when I shifted to manual mode and there was a downshift when I needed to, whether it was going uphill or overtaking, that's when I noticed this engine has a lot of power. So it wasn't the engine's fault. When we interviewed the people from Kia Philippines, we found out that this car really aims to be a city car. And because of that, they tuned the transmission in such a way that it stays on the lower RPMs to save fuel. So when you drive this car, don't be mistaken. It likes to roll because it's trying to save fuel as best as possible. So this isn't a sluggish car by any means, but its characteristics on how it drives on the road, especially on uphills and on winding roads, is something to consider.
Your Stonic, you can downshift, guys, and pull yourself up the hill, no problem.
So as you can see, we're in like on a spirited drive right now on this media test drive. George Ramirez, he wanted us to experience the Kia Stonic in these winding roads because he wanted us to feel the athleticism, the capability of the Kia Stonic. And it made me realize that the engine is actually powerful. The thing is, you can also tell that when it's in automatic mode, the car is thinking in a more frugal sense. So it'll try to keep the RPMs low to maximize the fuel efficiency. But when you put it in manual mode, like what I'm in right now, when you put it in manual mode and like keep the revs high, this car can pull. And yeah, like I must say, you can really see the strength of the Stonic's crossover design. Because ride height wise, it's enough to pass for like the practicality of an SUV. But it's like low enough that it has sedan-like qualities when taking the corners. But having said that, I wouldn't like buy this for like a sporty drive. But don't be surprised if you actually catch yourself smiling when driving it in these kinds of winding roads. If there's any indicator, this is a really well-balanced car. So if you want to like apply a good amount of torque that you can, overtake, that you can go uphill, you're really going to have to go to the manual mode because it seems like the transmission of this car is really meant to drive frugal. So if you want to drive either spirited, you want to drive like overtaking, or you want to go uphill, you really want to consider going to the manual mode of the Kia Stonic. But yeah, if this is any indicator, this is a well-balanced car. You have practicality, athleticism, and sedan-like qualities. Who is this car for? The usual answer is this is the car for young people. This is the car for yuppies. The ones who've been working for quite a while and their first big investment would be a car. This would be perfect, especially for a car under ₱1 million. But you know what? Then it got me thinking. This has a lot of space. This has a lot of practical stuff that I can see being used for the next 5 years. This car is even good for starting families. So if you have one kid, when they grow up, they're still going to fit in the back seat. For those who are starting a family, this has ISOFIX seats. So your baby carriers can be attached in the back easily. And this can be even for those empty nesters. The ride height's high enough that you don't have to care so much about the road, but low enough so that it's easy to enter. Some people forget to take that into account, that entering a car is a big factor for especially older people. So if I were to describe this car, it's like the greatest hits of what everyone's looking for this 2021. Everyone's looking for a practical crossover that has a lot of storage space, that drives well, that's fuel efficient, that looks good, feels good. It's that whole package put into one. If you're only allowed to have one car in the garage and you were to imagine it, this is the car you're probably imagining right now. To sum it up, this car is for those who are looking for a very practical car under ₱1 million. But despite that, it feels like a holistic package that you feel like you're getting your money's worth. If you like what you see, consider liking the video. But if you love what you see and you want to see more stuff like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're not on Facebook, consider liking the Facebook page so you can get more reviews like this at your newsfeed. I'm Nix, and I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed the car. And I'll see you on the next one. What I like about the Kia Stonic is that the